Welcome to the Redvee TV preview show, supported by A-Star Recruitment for the 2022 season, as we look ahead to this week's round 23 clash, as Saints travel to Hull FC for a pretty big away game, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Only a couple of away games left, and they're both, well, Sunday I would describe as very tricky. Obviously, the one in a couple of weeks would be described somewhat differently. But yeah, this is one of those, Hull are one of these, the definitive, you don't know what you're going to get team. So even though they've got a few bodies missing, it's still going to be a very tough one. Obviously, we've got a couple of bodies back, which is great. Still missing a few as well, which is not so good. But yeah, it's very, 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 very tricky. But I think hopefully we'll be focused after last week, at least getting the victory last week, such as it was. But any win on Sunday, as far as I'm concerned, is a good win.
Yeah, given the upheaval in the squad over the last few weeks, I think it was really important that we got back on that horse last week, got the 2 points. I think we all hoped that that performance was going to be better. But at this moment in time, I think it's all about securing top spot.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought we were pretty decent for about an hour last week. We made a few errors with ball in hand going forward, but we'd built up a comfortable 20 points to 0 lead. And I thought we were one score away from putting Cass to bed and it maybe being 30 plus. Obviously, we get injuries down our left side. Young Danny Hill, Redvee sponsored Danny Hill, to give him his full name. Copped a bit of a shoulder knock, which affected him. And I felt maybe at that point we could have done with maybe switching Conrad Hurl over to that side to give him a bit more support. No slight on Ben Davis, but with a very young left side defence. And obviously when Cass finally started putting something together, they got some joy down there, and our young lads were exposed a little bit. But listen, we got the win. We've not been great the last few weeks, certainly, but no team goes through the whole season being sparkling and fantastic every week. Sometimes you're going to have to take wins, which, as I think Kev said on the instant fan reaction, that a game you wouldn't watch back. So, they can't, as I said, it can't all be showboat filled matches. Sometimes you just got to get the win, get home, and think about next week. And that was certainly one of those last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, we try and stay quite level-headed. Some might not. Well, some say we don't. And we, despite the win last week, obviously we said we didn't play greatly, but we got told on our comments under the video to have a day off. We're the most dominant team for 4 seasons on the spin. Some really good points. Still not a full strength. Sometimes you need to win ugly. We got caught out last week against Salford. Got caught out massively. But to ask if that performance was worth the season ticket money after the last few years and the season we've had up until a fortnight ago, I hate to see what you two would be like if we were at the other end fighting to stay up. Well, one half of Redvee supported Burnley or supports Burnley, and the other half supports Everton. So, yeah, you'd be the first ones bumming them up after a grand final win. Finn, after a grand final win, but the first to stick the knife in. Really?
I don't think sticking the knife in. I think constructive criticism is always welcome and should always be offered, even when you have the point that the person that commented there makes, it's not bad in terms of a lot of success, and we rightly applaud them, and people shouldn't be ultra critical after a not great performance in a win. And I don't think you were. I think the point you've made, and you've made it on various occasions over the years, was that worth the admission money? And it probably wasn't. The players, and probably Christian would say that themselves. And I think there's always an approach of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater when we've had a bad defeat. Even like Salford, for example, you can say, well, it was a blip, it was coming. Salford were great. You have to just sometimes take one in the chin, but I don't think you certainly go off the deep end. If anything, we're more positive, maybe sometimes too positive to a fault. But you can't be, you can't have a great relationship with the club and then be throwing all sorts of nonsense at players and coaches and throwing the toys out the pram anytime things don't go our way. I think you have to be measured, and I think we pretty much are, as much as we possibly can. You know, when you're talking about
I think we're measured. Listen, whatever goes on the pitch, performance-wise, is fair game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anything that happens off the pitch, if it's an informed opinion, again, fair game. But to say we stick the knife in was an absolute bizarre one.
No,
I think people may miss out on the joke. We do have a joke at the back of the West Stand each game. Was that worth the season ticket money? And if it's a good performance, yeah. If it's a dull game and you stood around chatting, no. But yeah, 95% of the time over the last 4 years, every game has been worth the money.
Absolutely.
Listen,
and that's the thing. You're never going to get every game's going to be a showreel. Every game's going to be fantastic. I mean, I think some people maybe are a bit spot. I thought came to me the other day, but look at obviously Leeds their period of domination. Then they've had a barren spell between 2009 and 2017. That's 9 seasons. Saints won 2 trophies, both of them in 2014. So, you know, a lot of barren years there for Saints. A few beaten finals, a few beaten semi-finals. You know, this is a great period of time, but I still think you can offer measured constructive criticism if the performance isn't great, because you're going to, as you say, blow smoke up backsides when everything's going really well and we play great. But I think players would expect and understand if, whether it's ourselves or other people say, that wasn't a great performance today, as long as you're not calling individuals out and calling for the whole thing to be ripped up and started again. It's absolutely fair to, because if you don't, otherwise it's not a serious forum. This, if you don't offer criticism after the defeat, you might as well just play the same tape back.
Imagine if Christian Wolf went back in the change rooms after the match and said, "Listen, lads, I could tell you that was a really bad performance, but you know what? The last 4 years we've been great, so just don't worry about it. Just turn up on Monday." It's bizarre. And listen, we could have given a Kieran Cunningham press conference after the game where when we were dire in like 2016 and he was telling everybody it was great. Listen, there's 10,000 other people who've seen the performance. There's 150, 200,000 people who've watched it on Channel 4. So for us to stand there and say, yeah, that's fantastic, wouldn't be accurate.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to retain credibility. Whether people like
retain, I'm got it.
Fair do. But I mean, whether people, Saints fans or people support other teams watching this, you know, you can't sort of like say something that's not true. You've got to be honest. You've got to be credible. If we get well beaten by a team that plays better than us, we say that. If we play well and we win, we say that. You've got to be fair. Otherwise, why bother? No one will take you seriously.
Absolutely. We'll move on to the Saints squad. Coming back into the squad this week, Will Hopewati pictured, Sion Matautia. Names are going out. Yeah. Iggy Parsi and Josh Sim coming back from his loan at Hull FC. Dropping out the squad, Redvee.net sponsored Dan Hill with a shoulder injury, Taylor Pemberton, Lewis Baxter, and the band Curtis Sironen. Options and decisions for Christian Wolf to make this week if obviously if players are fit, where they play. Let's assume, Peter, that everybody in that 21 is available.
Yeah. Does
Will Hopewati come straight back in at fullback for you?
Absolutely. You have a player of that pedigree and of that ability. You play him at one. We play John Bennison on the wing. And to preempt a question which I assume you were going to ask, I have Sione Matautia playing at left centre. I know we brought back Josh Sim, but we also brought back Sam Royal and didn't play him. Supporters of FC and KR might not be happy about that, but they're Saints players, and we can recall them as we see fit. I don't know, it'll be an interesting dilemma regarding Josh Sim. Obviously, he's been at Hull for about a month or so, and do you throw him in against guys that he's been in the training room and the training ground and the dressing room with? And do they exploit any weaknesses that they've maybe seen? Who knows? Or do you throw them in and think, right, go and show these guys what they're missing? But for me, I think we've got to, the next few weeks, go our strongest team. And for me, certainly defensively, I'd play Sione there because, you know, we've got, looking at that squad, we've got plenty of options there. that can cover in the back row. I know we don't have Big Curtis, who I thought was outstanding last week, but Jake Wingfield was absolutely fantastic. Sam Royal's been playing in Super League and is, he's playing really well. He's a great prospect. I think next season we'll see a lot more of him. And obviously, you've still got guys like Morgan Knowles, who's absolutely incessant and unstoppable, it seems. So, that's what I would go with. Strongest team you can get out in the field without any shadow of a doubt.
Now, Peter, you're usually a little bit of an oracle. Can lone players play against their own club anyway?
Now, you've built me up there, and I'm just about to let you down. I don't honestly know, because obviously it was a kind of week to week loan. I don't know if we'll have to assume that he can, because he's been named in the squad. But
but he's been named in our squad because he's our player.
Yeah, that's the thing. But if he wasn't able if he was still at Hull, I don't think, unless Saints had written something in the contract that it's a loan, but you can't play against. Now, I remember back in 2010, Matty Smith played and scored a hat trick for Salford against Saints, then come back at the end of the season when we got to the grand final. We lost to Wigan that year, unfortunately, Old Trafford in 2010 season, and he played in our playoff matches and the grand final. So I don't know if it's changed from then, but it's a strange one. I'm not completely sure. It would have been an interesting decision. Maybe we've recalled them to avoid Hull doing that. Who knows?
I'm just trying to have a look now. I can't find the actual answer. I'm sure I will at some point today. But for the integrity of the competition, I would suggest Josh Sim couldn't play for Hull FC this week, given how tight it is at the top of the table. First of all, imagine the reaction of Saints fans if Josh Sim went and scored the winning try against us and had a worldie.
Yeah, exactly.
And imagine the reaction of the rest of Super League if Saints won by 4 and it was potentially like a Josh Sim missed tackle that let us in, and he's our player.
Yeah, it just
doesn't make sense, does it, to allow it?
A no-win situation either way. He's either a pariah with the Saints fans and he gets some funny looks when he returns to the Saints dressing room, or everyone else in Super League, including the Hull fans, cry foul because Josh Sim has made an error that's led to his parent club winning the match. So I think it's, he's back at Saints now, so that's not going to be an issue. But it would have been a very, very unfair scenario for him to be involved in. Although, again, I mentioned the incident for the match with 2010 with Matty Smith at Salford. He was ultra professional that day, came out, helped Salford to win, scored a hat-trick, man of the match. So, and then come back to Saints at the back end of the season and helped us through a couple of playoff matches into the grand final. So, it's down to, I suppose, the individual concerned. But Josh Sim's quite a young guy to, I suppose, deal with stuff like that. I'm sure he would do his best, whatever the situation was anyway.
Who are the 4 that miss out for you, Peter?
I don't think Sam Royal will get a run out. I think Dan Norman probably won't as well. If I'm playing Sione at centre, then it's Josh Sim and Ben Davis that miss out as well.
Yeah, I assuming everybody's fit, I'd probably agree with that. I think Jake Wingfield, obviously, he was a man of the match performance last week. Obviously, he's done well enough to retain his place in the 17, and he'll be looking to kick on and solidify that. But yeah, I'd pretty much go with the same. I'd go Will Hopoate at fullback, Sione at centre, and I think that solidifies our backline a little bit. And looking ahead, should be enough to see us out to top spot, hopefully.
Well, let's hope so. Obviously, we can't factor in any further suspensions or injuries. Hopefully, touch wood, we've had our fill of that this season. Certainly, watching the match last night with Hull KR and Leeds, they were dropping like flies in that match. So perhaps a lot of other teams are going to start now and pick up injuries. We hope not. You don't want the competition at this stage of the season, be it for top spot, playoff places, dare I say relegation, decided by teams being unable to put anything resembling their first choice 13 out on the field. But unfortunately, it's the way it goes. But yeah, I think if we look at that squad and that team that we predict, for tomorrow. I think it should be good enough, but we can't obviously rule out FC. There are a few notable victories recently, games that perhaps teams didn't and fans didn't expect them to win. So, but there were a few shockers as well. So it's a toss of a coin as to what Hull turn up tomorrow, to be honest.
I was surprised to see that we've actually gone and won our last 6 games at the MKM Stadium, whatever it's called these days, the KCOM. It always seems like a tricky place to go, but we do seem to get the results there lately.
Yeah, sometimes you just have a run at a particular venue or against a particular team where no matter how you're playing, how they're playing, how the match goes, you always end up on the right side of the scoreline. Obviously, I hesitate to say this, but records are there to be broken as well, and runs can't go on forever. So it's I'm tempering the enthusiasm a little bit here. Each individual game is separate to the other ones. It's a new teams, new match, new day. So, but I mean, hopefully that continues. It's just one of those venues where we always seem to play Hull, and they're always maybe in a bit of a downward kind of spiral and not playing too well. But and obviously they've still got a few bodies missing. There were a couple of other players out with Josh brought in on loan, or players brought in short term just to help them out. But as I said at the top of this, any win tomorrow by 1 point, by 21 points, it will be absolutely fine by me.
Yeah, you'd almost think this is a must-win game for FC tomorrow. They currently lie 3 points outside of the top 6 behind Leeds. Obviously, tomorrow is the game in hand. So you get the impression if they have any ambition of making that 6th spot, tomorrow is probably a must-win for them, given their games coming up. Obviously, they've got us and Wakefield at home, but then they've got to go to Salford away. They've got Toulouse at home, and then the derby at home. So all fixtures where teams have got things to play for, obviously either at the top of the table or at the bottom, and then a big derby to come.
Absolutely, and I'm interested with the FCKR in the last day of the season. That could potentially be a shootout for a top 6 place. Although Cass and certainly Leeds have picked up form and picked up results. So if we do the business tomorrow and we beat KR, I think it's going to be difficult. Yeah, beat KR next week. I think it's going to be difficult for either of those teams to make the playoffs. But who knows? There's probably a few twists and turns still to happen before the final round.
Indeed. Okay, to move on to FC's squad, I'll pull it up. I think the first thing I noticed about that squad, Peter, is how many players are named between 30 and 40 in the squad numbers. Yeah, is that a fair reflection of where they're at in terms of injury?
Yeah, there's quite a few there, isn't there? Obviously, the men in black have brought in Will Smith, and that's your pun taken care of for the week. I was sending apologies to Kev for that. But
Peter,
is that
like the number 14?
Top, is it?
Like the number 14. I love what you do.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, I think mine was better, but anyway, we'll move on. But but yeah, looking at that squad, there's a few there, as you say, that are higher squad numbers. Maybe a few of them are obviously guys coming in on loan, but there's still a few decent players, and with the usual squad numbers there. Danny Houghton goes on forever. Luke Gale on his day can dominate a match. Jake Connor likewise, depends what kind of mood he's in. But I'm not frightened by it. He says jinxing it. But it's all about our attitude on the day. If we go in and play our game, and our pack gets on top, and we get a good kicking game, we'll force errors from them. We'll score points. We'll win the game. But we can't take them lightly just because there's a few players in there that maybe some of the younger lads, they'll be keen to make an impact and keen to stake their claim for a permanent jersey.
Absolutely.
So we've got to be respectful. We've got to be mindful, but we've just got to go out there and sometimes the whole pack sometimes can really take it to teams. Look at Chris Satai, for example, he's one of their best forwards by quite a distance, and I think we certainly need to be mindful of that. Match their intensity and physicality up front. If we do that or get on top of them, then I certainly think we'll come out on top. But there's notable players missing there, obviously around Adam Swift for one, who's had a heck of a time of it. But it's that's what I was talking about. It's tough this time of the year, and you're missing a lot of your frontline players, and it's very unfortunate when you've got something to play for.
Yeah, obviously missing for Hull, big names: Josh Griffin, Adam Swift, Manu Mao, Cameron Scott, Carlos Tumavavi, Andre Savelio, Joe Cater. Josh Sims come back to us, Jacob Hookham and Jack Brown are missing out as well. And coming into the squad, Ben McNamara, Deneve Barnthorpe, Davy Litton. That's essentially half of their salary cap out, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's tough for any team to deal with that. If we had half of our salary cap missing, we would be in certainly a far worse position in the table, and our prospects would not be as rosy for Old Trafford. So you've got to have a degree of sympathy. We obviously want Saints to win. We want Saints to win every week, and bring home trophies, and we've been doing that on a consistent basis the last few years. But you can look at other teams and think, it is a shame, because you know how we would feel. We would seasons certainly where we've had lots of players injured for a long time. I remember one being a 2013 season, we seemed to have a heck of a lot, I remember, but that's when guys like Luke Thompson broke through, Mark Percival broke through, guys like Greg Richards, who had a good few years at Saints as well, get his chance, and these guys went on to like good players for Saints, great players in some cases, and obviously Greg's moved on and he's back in Super League with KR, although he got injured last night. And continuing the theme, but maybe some of these Hull youngsters will take their chance, as we said, and put their hand up and write their name in big letters in the papers on Monday morning. Who knows? Yeah,
and in a season of extremes, we went up there, I think it was February, when the season kicked off and played in the snow. Tomorrow, it's going to be glorious, glorious sunshine, one of the hottest days of the year. There'll be no gales as Saints come down the lane of Hull as they look to fashion a win and tailor a result that will end a barren spell.
You've outdone yourself there. That was pretty damn good. Fair play to you. Kev is recoiling in horror as we speak. That certainly wasn't dull, as some people refer to FC as. So I doff my imaginary hat to you for that. I hope Saints' performance is certainly better than ours has been on this today. That's all I want to say on that one.
all I'll say is there was absolutely no way I could slide in Voliki Japani into it.
I don't think there's any way anyone could. It's a heck of a handle, that, isn't it? And if you can get a pun out of that one, then finish Redvee TV, because we'll never beat that as long as we live.
Absolutely not. Right, Peter, predictions then for tomorrow yourself?
Yeah. I'm going to say Saints by 10. I think it's going to be in the second half that I think we'll wear them down and get on top of it. I think it's going to be nip and tuck for the first 40, 50 minutes. But I think we'll have enough in the pack and out wide just to nudge ourselves over the line.
Well, I have actually gone for Saints by 10 as well.
Wow, great minds.
Great minds.
Some might say
we'll win by 50 now.
Well, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to have kind of underestimated the margin of victory. But listen, if we come out with a 10, 8, 6, it doesn't matter. Just getting the wins. No injuries, no suspensions. Get the win. Yes. Are you listening?
Maybe that's the advantage of playing him at centre as well. There's less chance of him obviously getting involved in anything, you hope.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's he's had a few suspensions last season and this. Obviously, he had the heartache of missing the Challenge Cup final last year. So it's just a case of sometimes we can look at things like Curtis's last week, think it's a little bit harsh, but the players know the parameters that they're working within, and it's easy for us to maybe sit here and these guys have got a split second to readjust their body position, their tackle height, and we've had that discussion before. When players have been banned for tackling someone who's slipping in the tackle, and it's impossible to readjust. But I think we just have to try and be as smart as possible. Give the referee a good picture so that if there's anything happening, you can say, well, first impact was on the shoulder, and then the arm rode up in the tackle. Just do what you can. You know what the parameters are. Just try our level best to make sure that we're not giving ourselves any problems with suspensions and in-game yellows or reds, which could obviously affect the result of that game as well.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed it'll be a better performance than we put in on our last away trip to Salford. It cannot be any worse. Peter,
yeah, don't put those knives away. Put those knives away, Dave. Come on.
Frank, yeah. the Redvee TV hate channel. So negative we are. So negative.
Yeah.
But that negative, I don't think I've predicted one defeat in the entire history of doing these preview shows.
Yeah, I don't think any of us have. Even thinking back to doing them at the start of the 2017 when things were tough. Kieran was in charge. It didn't go well. I don't think anyone predicted that we would lose, even when in our heart of hearts we felt we would lose. So,
like Mark Lawrence. Right, but that's the way to end. Peter, cheers for joining us. Have a good weekend, and we'll catch you during the week, I'm sure. When are you next down?
Well, obviously, the train companies have obviously been starting to reduce their timetable. I was looking at Wakefield and Toulouse, both of them, because it's a bank holiday Monday and a Saturday. But the Avanti have kind of restricted their timetable. We don't have date times for those days yet, so I might be looking at getting the bus down and back up to and from Manchester, then getting the northern train back from Manchester to St Helens. That might be the only option. Just tell Avanti that they can stick their train, and I'll just I'll definitely do that.
We're looking for them to sponsor us next year. Avanti. Right. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you after hopefully a Saints victory tomorrow at Hull FC. Catch you soon.